Imagine a caterpillar that lives in the home of its natural enemy, a predator that wears the corpses of its victims as armor, and scientists only found 62 of them in 20 years. Welcome to WildLeadTube, where animal intelligence, evolutionary mysteries, and verified science collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Right now, on a single mountainside in Hawaii, one of the rarest caterpillars on Earth is making its living inside spider webs. It's carnivorous, it's a cannibal, and it decorates itself with the dismembered body parts of dead insects. Scientists call it the bone collector, and I have the evidence that proves this behavior is real. This isn't a horror movie. This is documented science, published in the journal Science in April 2025. Out of nearly 200,000 known moth and butterfly species, only 0.1% are carnivorous. That's about 300 species total. The bone collector is one of them, and it's the only one that lives this way. It belongs to a genus called Hyposmocoma, an ancient lineage of moths that exists only in Hawaii. These caterpillars spin protective silk cases around themselves. Most species decorate with algae, lichen, or wood chips for camouflage. But the bone collector, it collects corpses. For 20 years, scientists walked past these caterpillars without understanding what they were seeing. A larva covered in bug bits inside a spider web. It looked like an accident, a coincidence. But to understand why this behavior is anything but accidental, we need to follow the evidence. Because what scientists discovered changes everything we thought we knew about caterpillar survival strategies. Let me show you exactly how it works. This story begins almost 20 years ago. In 2006, Dan Rubinoff, an entomologist at the University of Hawaii, was walking through the Waianae Mountains on the island of Oahu, exploring tree hollows, rock crevices, and fallen logs. He spotted something strange next to a spider web, a caterpillar covered in little bits of bug. His first thought, random debris, a hazard of living near cobwebs. He moved on, but then he found another one, and another. Each time the same bizarre decoration, fly wings, beetle parts, weevil heads, all carefully attached to a silken case. I've linked the full university statement in the description. For years, Rubinoff dismissed it. Too strange, too specific. It had to be a coincidence. But the pattern kept repeating. Every specimen he found was the same, living in enclosed spider webs, decorated with insect remains, feeding on something. The first question was simple. What is this species? Genetic testing revealed the answer. This caterpillar belongs to Hyposmocoma, a genus with over 350 species in Hawaii. Some make cases that look like cigars. Others use wood chips or snail shells, but none, until now, used corpses. The second question was harder. What is it doing in a spider's web? Here's the paradox. Caterpillars are prey. Spiders are predators. A caterpillar in a spider web should be food, but not this one. The bone collector doesn't just tolerate the spider. It needs the spider, because the spider brings the food. Insects get trapped in the web. The spider feeds, and the bone collector scavenges what's left. Dead insects, weakened prey. Sometimes the spiders shed skin. It's a scavenging carnivore living in the lion's den, and somehow the spider doesn't notice. The decoration isn't random, it's strategic. Researchers observed these caterpillars in the lab. They offered various materials, leaves, bark, wood chips. The caterpillars ignored all of it. But when they offered insect parts, the caterpillars carefully selected them, rotated them, measured them. If a piece was too large, they chewed it down to size. then wove it into their case with silk. The result? A grotesque suit of armor made from the corpses of its prey. And here's the theory. The camouflage works on multiple senses. Sight, yes, but also smell and taste. To the spider, this caterpillar smells like the web itself, like dead prey, not like fresh food. But here's what makes this discovery even more remarkable. In 20 years of fieldwork, across hundreds of surveys, scientists found only 62 specimens, 62, all within a 15 square kilometer area. That's about 6 square miles on a single mountain range on Oahu, nowhere else. Compare that to other insects, invasive ants in Hawaii, millions, introduced beetles, thousands per acre. The bone collector, 62 individuals in 2 decades. Scientists who study invasive species get funding, equipment, and teams. They track pests that threaten agriculture and tourism. Meanwhile, rare native species, like the bone collector, get discovered by accident, studied on shoestring budgets, and barely make the news. Today, more resources go to fighting coconut beetles than protecting a 6-million-year-old caterpillar that exists nowhere else on Earth. Here's where the story gets stranger. Genetic analysis revealed something impossible. This caterpillar lineage is at least 6 million years old. 6 million years. The island of Oahu is only 3.7 million years old. This species is nearly twice as old as the island it lives on, which means its ancestors couldn't have originated here. They must have come from somewhere else. The answer? Older Hawaiian islands. Islands that no longer exist because the Hawaiian archipelago is a volcanic chain. Islands form, rise, erode, and eventually sink back into the ocean over millions of years. The bone collector's ancestors lived on islands that have vanished, and somehow this lineage migrated island to island, surviving each time until landing on Oahu. Let's talk about what it means to be a carnivorous caterpillar. Caterpillars are herbivores. That's the rule. Of nearly 200,000 moth and butterfly species, fewer than 300 are carnivorous. That's 0.1%, 1 in 1,000. Why? Because most caterpillars are built for chewing leaves, soft bodies, mandibles designed for plants, no venom, no hunting adaptations. But Hawaii is different. Geographic isolation creates evolutionary pressure, resources are limited, competition is fierce, and sometimes species adapt in unexpected ways. In Hawaii, some Hyposmocoma caterpillars hunt snails, others live underwater in streams, and the bone collector, it patrols spiderwebs like a scavenger. It's not just unusual, it's unprecedented. But wait, it gets worse. In captivity, researchers observed something even more disturbing. The bone collectors are cannibals. When 2 caterpillars inhabit the same web, one will attack the other. It tears open the victim's silk case, enters, and feeds on its own species. In the wild, scientists rarely find more than 1 per web. Now they understand why. The bone collector doesn't just scavenge spider prey. It will eat its own kind if given the chance. It's a carnivore, a scavenger, and a cannibal, all wrapped in the armor of its victims. Here's how the survival mechanism actually works. The trick is simple. First, the caterpillar finds an enclosed spiderweb, tree holes, rock crevices, fallen logs, places where the web is protected. Second, it builds its silk case inside the web, a portable home strong enough to protect it, mobile enough to move. Third, it decorates. This is the critical part. The caterpillar scavenges insect remains from the web, parts the spider has already consumed. exoskeletons, wings, legs, and attaches them to its case. The result. To the spider, this caterpillar doesn't look or smell like prey. It looks like debris, like the web itself. Fourth, it waits. When insects get trapped, the spider feeds first. Then the caterpillar moves in. It consumes what's left. Weakened prey, dead insects, whatever the spider missed. This is not a bug. This is the design. 6 million years of evolution created a caterpillar that can survive in the most dangerous place imaginable. You'll find the full Science Journal study in the description. Researchers publish in Science, one of the world's top journals. Their work gets peer-reviewed, verified, and protected. Meanwhile, the caterpillar they discovered survives on a single mountainside with no legal protection, no designated habitat, and no recovery plan. Science recognizes its importance, but policy doesn't. But here's what separates the bone collector from simple scavengers: the craftsmanship. Researchers identified body parts from at least 6 different insect families attached to these cases: beetle abdomens, weevil heads, fly wings and legs, spider molt, ant heads, and earwig parts. Each piece is carefully selected. The caterpillar probes it, rotates it, tests the fit. If it's too large, the caterpillar chews it smaller. If it's the wrong shape, it moves on. Then it weaves the part into its case, using silk with precise placement and strategic positioning. The result looks random, but it's not. This caterpillar can distinguish between edible material and wearable material, between the right size and the wrong size, between useful camouflage and useless debris. That's problem solving. That's object discrimination. That's cognitive ability in an insect most people would step on without a second thought. And here's an unexpected twist. The spiders these caterpillars live with, they're not native to Hawaii. At least 4 different species of non-native spiders host bone collector caterpillars. Introduced species, invasive species, spiders that weren't here when this caterpillar first evolved. Which means the bone collector adapted. It learned to use the webs of spiders its ancestors never encountered. New hosts, new web structures, new behaviors. That's behavioral flexibility in a species that's 6 million years old. It learned something new, but that adaptation might not be enough. What makes this dangerous today is that Hawaii is experiencing an extinction crisis. Right now, Hawaii has more endangered species than any other U.S. state, about 500 threatened and endangered species. That's more than California, Texas, and Florida combined. The main threat, invasive species, little fire ants, coconut rhinoceros beetles, mongoose, coqui frogs, rats, and parasitic wasps, all introduced, all destructive, all spreading. An estimated 90% of Hawaii's 750 native snail species have gone extinct. Native birds are disappearing, and the Jaya tree is dying from rapid Jaya death, a fungal disease, and about 20 new invasive species establish themselves in Hawaii every single year. Conservation organizations spend millions tracking invasive pests that threaten tourism and agriculture. Mosquitoes, ants, species that affect human comfort and profit. Meanwhile, native insects like the bone collector get discovered after decades of fieldwork and receive almost no conservation funding. The economic pests get teams. The ancient natives get forgotten. Dan Rubinoff, the lead researcher, said something chilling, quote, "We're really glad we discovered it before it went extinct. Before, not if, before. The bone collector lives in exactly 15 square kilometers. That's a square, about 2.4 miles on each side, one mountainside. If invasive ants colonize that area, the bone collectors die. If a new parasitic wasp arrives, they die. If a wildfire burns through, they die. There are other Mediterranean Hyposmocoma species in Hawaii, the snail eater, the cigar case carnivore, but the bone collector, it's the last of its lineage, the only species left from a 6-million-year-old evolutionary branch. If it disappears, that entire lineage goes extinct. Millions of years of adaptation gone. And here's the thing. Scientists didn't even know this species existed until 2025. Published in Science just this year. We're discovering species and losing them in the same generation. But why should you care about one weird caterpillar in Hawaii? Because understanding how caterpillars detect and discriminate food could revolutionize agriculture. Less toxic pesticides, targeted pest control, crop protection, without killing everything. Because studying how this species adapted to non-native spiders could teach us about invasive species resilience. How do native species cope with sudden environmental changes? Because a caterpillar that can distinguish edible from wearable, that problem solves, that makes decisions, challenges everything we assume about insect intelligence. And because losing a 6-million-year-old lineage means losing biological information we can never get back. Genetic adaptations, evolutionary strategies, solutions to survival problems we haven't even thought of yet. Right now, we're in a race. Can we understand this species before we lose it? So what should you take from this? First, rarity doesn't mean unimportant. Only 62 individuals in 20 years. That's not a population, that's a countdown. But this species represents millions of years of evolutionary problem solving. The bone collector survived island extinctions, volcanic eruptions, and countless environmental changes. That resilience has value we're only beginning to understand. Second, geographic isolation creates innovation. Hawaii's distance from continents forced species to adapt in ways that seem impossible elsewhere. Carnivorous caterpillars, aquatic larvae, snail hunters. The isolation that makes these species vulnerable also made them extraordinary. Third, conservation is a race against discovery. We're finding species and losing them faster than we can study them. Every new invasive species that reaches Hawaii is a loaded gun pointed at native insects we haven't even documented yet. The bone collector survived for 6 million years. It might not survive the next decade. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Evolution doesn't care about our timelines. It took 6 million years to create the bone collector. We could eliminate it in 6 years. The species that survive human activity aren't always the smartest or the strongest. They're the ones we decide to notice, the ones that affect us directly. Mosquitoes get attention because they bite us. Rare caterpillars. They're invisible until they're gone. Right now, the bone collector is confined to one mountainside, with no legal protection. It's not listed as endangered. It has no designated critical habitat. It exists in a conservation blind spot. And here's the pattern. Hawaii leads the world in extinctions. More species have gone extinct in Hawaii than in any other place on Earth. Not because Hawaiians don't care, but because isolation makes species fragile and human activity makes survival impossible. All sources are linked in the description. If this opened your eyes to how much we're missing in the natural world, subscribe because the next video will show you another species that scientists almost lost before understanding it. What happens when an animal develops abilities we never thought possible, but we discover it only after its population collapses? That story is even more urgent. Think about this. The bone collector survived the extinction of entire islands. It adapted to predators, to climate changes, to volcanic eruptions. It solved the impossible problem of living in a spider's web. And now it's threatened by ants, invasive ants that humans accidentally introduced. After 6 million years, its greatest threat isn't a volcano or a predator. It's us. Don Rubinoff said it best. We're glad we discovered it before it went extinct. Before, not if. The answers aren't hiding in the future. They're written in the past, and they're disappearing faster than we can read them. WildLeadTube has the answers. I'll show you where to look.